Welcome, everybody. Good morning. John Zager. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Cloudy here on the eastern slope. Rained yesterday for a little while. Not very much, just a little. I am in my truck. Not at the park. I'm actually going to turn on my truck, so I don't know, I guess it makes some noise when it does that, but my apologies for that. It's a little chilly this morning, and I should have turned the truck on before I started the podcast. But anyway, good morning. Hope everybody's doing fine. Sunday. Supposed to be overcast and cloudy for most of the day, but no rain. Cooler temps. We've had 2 days of cooler temps. We've been down into the 80s, and that sure has been nice. It's there for quite a while. We were up in the upper 90s, and it was very hot and humid. So today what I want to do is deviate. I want to deviate away from, the hardcore neuroscience stuff that I try to talk about most every day. And I want to talk about common sense psychology. I have my coffee. It's cool. Haven't been to the gym because they don't open the gym until 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, the two different gyms I go to. They don't open until later, so we're sitting on a side street where it's quiet now. Don't know how long that'll be for. And I want to talk about common sense psychology. And I want to see if I get a reaction different than when I do my normal podcasts. This is totally just random. It's an opinion of mine. It's not necessarily correct, but it is my opinion. And I want to try it and see if I get any response. For some reason, they've now opened up my podcasts to a wider audience. I think I'm on iTunes podcasts, which is supposed to be really big. I'm on Google podcasts, which are supposed to attract a lot of people. I'm on Spotify, I think you pronounce it. They say that has a big audience. I've been on iHeartRadio, right, for quite a long time. And I don't know, seems like there ought to be a lot of people listening there. I've been on YouTube, and I do YouTube videos. Those two are different. I've been there for quite a while. And and there's other, what do they call them? Markets that they put podcasters on as you get larger. You don't just jump onto those markets because you're a podcaster, according to what I read. You jump onto those as they feel you're big enough to go to those markets, or you can hold those markets or attract those markets, or I don't know. Somehow the gods think that you're ready for something. It doesn't matter. I still have no audience. I have no idea why I have no audience. Of course, there's the logical stuff. People just don't like you, John Zager. Number two, they don't like what you're talking about, neuroscience and all that stuff. Number two, and you have a lousy presentation. Well, I disagree with all three of those things, and I think I got a great podcast. I like doing neuroscience. But today, we're gonna try something different, and I've got another idea for something I might venture into that I did a long time ago. I'm not real sure. But anyway, this is common sense psychology, and you'll understand that as you listen to it. In the town where I live, and the nearby surroundings, small towns, as well as down the interstate 50 miles in a major metropolitan city, there are homeless people that abound everywhere. I'm not even making that up. I just drive around and they're everywhere. In our town, they normally stay to a part of the town. You don't see them as much all over town, right? I mean, you do occasionally, but for the most part, they all congregate on that side of town, which is pretty large. And there's a large population, I guess, of homeless people. Now, more recently, since they've all been kicked out of Walmarts, that happened a couple, 2-3 years ago. You know, for years, everybody lived in Walmart parking lots. And the Home Depots don't allow you, and the Costco's don't allow you, and the Sam's Clubs don't allow you. And everywhere where people used to bed down now restricts you from being there. All right. There's streets everywhere in every town in America that are unmarked. They're just plain old streets, and, you know, they don't say 1 hour parking or 2 hour parking, or, you know, you can only park here from such and such hours. They're just streets, and, you know, anybody can park wherever they want to park. So they have no signs. They're free to park on. They're public streets that you and I pay for. You know, we pay taxes to be able to use these streets and park on them as we wish. I, myself, park on streets at night and sleep in my truck, right? And I park on these streets. The other place that they quit people, you know, were the rest areas. They don't allow you any longer to stay in the rest areas. They've gone even so far as to take out all the sinks and basically the toilets for the most part. So that, and if you have a local license plate, they arrest you, confiscate your vehicle, and charge you $2,000. Kind of weird. But I'm not here to talk about that. What I'm here to talk about rant about is there was a time in America, and I'm an older guy, right? I'm an older guy. So there was a time in America where you would make an income. Excuse me. I apologize for that. You would make an income that was substantial enough, and again, it wasn't a high number because everything's relative based on what years and how many years ago and that sort of thing. But you would make an income sufficient that you could afford rent for an apartment or a studio or a small house, things of that nature, right? Now, back then in the day, nobody wants to listen to that. Back then in the day, the property owners, the landlords, were not trying to milk you for every dime and penny that you had. They had a genuine interest in business. I bought this house at, back then, at a good price, and I'm pretty happy with it. Nobody likes to have a mortgage, but, I do, and I bought this as a rental, and hopefully I can break even or make $100 or a couple $100 a month on it. Just a reasonable business proposition for a person who has a little extra money and they can buy a rental. No big deal. They were not malicious in their attempt to purchase an income property. And they were happy, and, they'd paint the place when a new person, when an old person moved out and a new person was moving in, maybe they'd paint it or go down to the local store and get the carpet cleaning device that cleans the carpet. I remember those things because we all were renters at some point in time. But again, it was not the intent to go after the jugular vein to the people who have no money. It wasn't about that. It was about getting people into housing at an affordable amount that was satisfactory to the landlord. Pretty simple logic. That's called Psychology 101. And that's the way the world ran. We took care of one another. Now, were there the dark and shady people out there wandering the streets? Sure. You didn't see them very often. And the police, which that was their job, was to police the town, right? Pretty much made sure that the crime and the violence and all that sort of thing was quailed low. And they tried to watch out for that kind of deviant behavior. We're not interested in deviant behavior and people doing dastardly deeds. That's not what this podcast is about. Then, as time went on, there's a word that's been around since the beginning of time, and it's called greed. And people got greedy. People got greedy. And people were wanting to sell their properties to prospective income property owners, right? And they wanted to get more than what their property probably was worth. And it didn't go over very well, right? It didn't go over very well. But eventually, with time, it did. What is it? The law of supply and demand. Somebody somewhere eventually paid for that increased price in real estate because they thought they could raise their rents high enough to offset what they would be paying over for this piece of real estate. Not good. It's called greed. Now, this is America, so you're entitled to do whatever you want, and it's free business. And if you think you can make a lot of money, then good for you. You know, everybody's happy, happy, happy. Well, not everybody is happy, happy, happy. So, more and more people decided to sell their maybe second properties or older properties and charge more or try to get more than it was really worth, right? And more investors decided that they were willing to pay the price in order to make a profit on the other end of renting. So it took people out of the market that were just mom and pops wanting to have an income property. They could no longer afford to buy that little, I don't know, duplex down around the corner, you know, to maybe rent out to a relative or a friend. It took them out of the market, and it kept only the wealthier people, investors, in the market. And then it got even more greedy. Then all of a sudden you have these speculators, investors, that would buy these little properties for as cheap as they could, right? Fix it up, sort of, and flip it. And that became the new trend. And they would do minimal work on it to double the price. I'm exaggerating. I have no idea what they charge. But it was a substantial amount of money more than what the property was worth, but they wanted to make large profits. And then somebody would come along who had some money and buy that little property and then rent it out for an absorbent amount of money, unrealistic to the neighborhood. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a trend. You know, there's a trend going on that I'm describing of narcissism. The world centers around me. And it's about my ability to make as much money as possible. So gradually, over time, where there were no homeless people, take that with a grain of salt, because there's always been homeless people. But there were few homeless people. And now there became hundreds and hundreds of thousands of homeless people because of the trend that I just talked about. But I'm not here to talk about the housing trend. That's not what this podcast is about. At one time, you could go out, whoever you were in America, and you could work a job and make a wage and support your family. You may not be supporting them, with the pool in the backyard or the boat in the driveway, but you were able to support your family. Mom stayed home with the kids. Mom was a mother. That was a full-time, professional, respected job. By the way, it's not anymore. I wouldn't be running around saying that I'm a mother and look at the kids today and the guys wearing girl buns or whatever, and I can't tell a boy from a girl, and if you're a girl you want to be a boy, and if you're a boy you want to be a girl, and it just is disgusting to even look at. Being a mom's not a respectable thing anymore, because you're a part of the way these people are today, these kids. Church and God and government and authority and all the things, apple pie and Chevrolet, that's out the window. That's gone. That's gone. Used to be a family, dad would go to work, bring home a paycheck, support the family, be able to afford, the mortgage on the house, buying a house. Mom was respectable, loved, worshipped, desired, intricate part of every function of life. Absolutely. And then narcissism came into play. The world centers around me. So, the wages that people used to make went down the tube. And the cost of living went up and up and up and up. And the stress level, there's always been stress, but the stress level on people just escalated. And where there was a small percentage of people living under stress, today it's 90% of people are living under stress and are sick and diseased. Long story short, you now have homeless people everywhere for a couple different reasons. One is there's no jobs out there that pay worth a damn. They pay minimum wage with a high cost of living. And the two are clashing with each other. Minimum wage, if you worked 40 hours, you cannot afford to live in this America based on the cost of living. So you live on the streets. You have to do a couple different things. One, you have to take what money you make and use it for, I don't know, if you're lucky enough to have a vehicle, you got gas, insurance, food, a cell phone, in hopes that you get a job or a phone call about that. And maybe some miscellaneous other little tiny bills that you might acquire along the way, like a dental appointment or going to a doctor or something like that. And so you don't make enough money to live in this society. And number two, you can't have a family. You can't go out and get married and have kids. Working for, what is it? I don't know what it, $11.10 an hour it's up to now. So you would have to be working that job. Your wife would have to be working a job. And probably one of the two of you would be working two jobs. And the family values and morals would probably go down the toilet. The kids would become uncontrollable for the most part, because what's being modeled to them, here's the neuroscience part, all the beliefs and perceptions that they're acquiring are just uploading all those chemical genes that cause disease. The box store owners who are billionaires don't give a rat's ass about you, and they're not going to pay you anything. And they're going to hire managers and supervisors who have never been managers or supervisors, and you're being treated with disrespect. And there's no dignity. And people stay at those places for 6 months, 8 months, and then they move on to some other scumbag job where they get treated just the same for no money. The billionaires have no interest in paying you to stay. They have no interest. This is me speaking. I'm allowed to speak this way in America. They don't have an interest in keeping you long term. They don't want to invest in you. You ever gone to these fast food places? You might as well go in with the understanding that you're going to be abused, discounted, discredited, and treated with disrespect. What in the hell are you here for, bothering me when I'm trying to just get away with making what little bit of money I can without doing any work? Why are you here at 5 o'clock in the morning asking for coffee? Get out of here. Go back to your street and live, and come back, at 8 or 9 in the morning when I feel like dealing with you. They're making no money. They're not bad people. They have learned how to be that way. That's what they've learned. That's what the billionaires have taught them. And every year we get more and more homeless people. And the homeless people get to a point, I see them come out onto the streets early on. And they're optimistic. They're actually flippin' optimistic that they may make it. And they have dreams, and they have desires and aspirations and wishes that their life is going to get better. It's not going to get better. in the world we live in. It's not. Now, if you're a homeless person, you can go out and work and be abused and mistreated for, I guess they have to pay you $11.10. And they're not going to give you 40 hours for the most part, because then they have to pay you benefits. So they always keep you at 36 or 34 hours. So it's the billionaires saying, screw you. There's no training. There's no education. I went to a job interview with a major corporation 10 days ago. And the guy who owns this corporation is the third or the fifth wealthiest person in the world. And he owns these factories all over America. And each factory, I don't know, it's like a mile long. They're so big. And I went in, and supposedly, you go through this kind of hour, 2 hours sort of, I don't know, some sort of paperwork and history of the company and drug testing and just stuff. So you assume these people work in HR, right? I mean, all over America. They got hired to be the HR department for this company I'm talking about. These kids, and most of them were, early 20s, have no idea what HR is, have no idea what their job position is, have no interest in understanding the psychology of people. None. Have no interest in that. Aren't smart enough to understand that. Are not trained. Are not given the opportunity to use the skills that God gave them, and are an embarrassment to this company. But you know what? This company doesn't give a flippin' ass about what they look like. All they want is numbers. And they're going to abuse you and mistreat you and put people in front of you that are totally incompetent. And God bless these beautiful young people that are in these positions untrained. They're no better than all of the homeless people coming in trying to get these jobs. And the reason they have a market on people, employing people, is they're offering $15 an hour, which is unheard of, which is actually probably where we need to be to get people back in America living inside. So the hell with the guy that's the billionaire who's doing all the nasty stuff to make himself multi-billionaire. But by the same token, which is a two-sided sword, God bless him for offering $15 an hour to homeless people with benefits. It's a screwed up system. It's a rotten, screwed up system. Here's the caveat to that. So they do a background check and a drug check. They want to make sure that you're not doing drugs or anything currently. Well, how do you get by that one when, at least there's a lot of states, more states than not anymore, that allow drug usage. 2, when they do a background check, they now check your credit. Right? How many homeless people do you think have credit issues? 90%? You know, they went to a doctor and they didn't pay the doctor bill. Pay the doctor or buy some food. So their credit bureau report shows they don't have an 800 credit rating, but they have a, I don't know, 550 or something. And they're told they can't work because they have poor credit. They have no credit. They show a poor credit history. They got arrested by the cops for vagrancy because they were living on a street that has no signs that allows them to just freely park anywhere they want in America. And the police arrest them, throw them in jail. They stayed in Walmart's parking lot for over the allotted time. Do you know you cannot go and park in Walmart's parking lot or Sam's Club or Costco or whatever all those big box stores are, Home Depot and Lowe's and all. You're supposed to go to the store, do your business, get your ass out of there, get into your car, and get out of their goddamn parking lot. Or the cops now drive through these parking lots regularly, every couple hours. And if you look suspicious, they can now stop you and arrest you. My God, people, this is not made up. The grocery stores. You are not allowed to park in a grocery store parking lot any longer than it takes you to get out of your car, go into the store, buy your groceries, get your ass in your car, and get the hell out of there. The police, and this isn't new, this is old as well, they arrest you and give you citations for spending too much time in the parking lot. I saw a guy who went in and bought a chicken. I don't know. They have those roasted chickens or something at, I don't know, Walmart's or Sam's or some damn place. And they have them for how much are they? I don't know, $3.99 or $4.99 or something like that. Good price for a bird that's already cooked and you just have to eat it. The guy was so hungry, he took it out to his truck, opened up the back of his truck gate, dropped it down, opened up the chicken, had a bottle of water, and started eating his chicken. He was just hungry. He wasn't going to rob anybody. He wasn't going to do anything malicious. He just thought, well, hell, here's a nice looking chicken and I'm hungry. I'm just going to go outside real quick and have a bite or two of this before I hop in my truck and go on down the road. Police? No. There was a lady who came and pointed her car 10 feet from his back tailgate and stared at him. I was watching this whole thing. I watched it. She was so offended, she got on her cell phone, and I assume she called the police. I have no idea. And 3 cop cars 3 cop cars come with guns out and arrest the son of a bitch. And she drove off, feeling like she's done her duty to society. Right? And the poor guy, he kind of had chicken in his mouth when they were arresting him, right? It was like his mouth had just dropped. His jaw had just dropped. He couldn't believe, and he kept, I couldn't tell what he was saying, but I could kind of tell that he was saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And so he was arrested and taken away to jail for eating chicken in the parking lot, which was spending too much time in the parking lot. That's what America's come down to. There are people now, and I can personally witness this one, where if you're parked on the street, people now will walk up and take pictures of your license plate and your truck and you in it, and they'll call the police. I told you the story about the one the other day where I normally park and read my book, right? Because it's a nice, quiet street. And they parked the car, in this one spot that seems out of the way for traffic and everything, kind of trying to give me a hint that we don't want you parked on that street. And I told you the other story to where, the cop lady was parked in my spot on the street. And I wanted to say to her, "How long are you going to be parking there? Because that's my place where I normally park and read a book." She was giving me the hint that we don't want you parking on our streets. You can't go to parks without being suspicious. And I can attest to this one personally as well. If you go to I don't know, what do they call them? City parks. They're all over. There's bunches of them and things like that. If you go to a city park and sit and, do a podcast like I'm doing right now, and since I've been doing this podcast this morning, I've had 4 people walk right up to my truck. You might have heard my voice kind of slow down and stop because I'm staring at them. And they're walking right up to my truck within 2-3 feet, pulling out their cell phone, looking directly at me, talking. And I don't know who they're calling. They're probably calling the police, and within the next 10 minutes, maybe the police will be by and, they'll want to move me on or arrest me or something. Now here comes a lady from behind me who already walked by me one time, and now she's coming from behind and she's on her phone, eyeing the back of my truck. It's a weird world. And then we have the homeless people and why we have homeless people. Greed is a huge thing. Narcissism. And it just is not good. I'm going to see what this lady's doing. She's obviously wanting me not to be parked here. And she's on her phone, so I will hesitate for a moment, you guys, as I see what she's doing. But that, and I guess as she is walking by, I'm going to talk a little lower. But maybe the more I think about it, it's just about fear. Maybe people that are homeless are threatening to people. I guess that's the way they deal with their fear. I'm not sure. As opposed to, back in the day, it used to be you talked to everybody and visited with everybody, and everybody was like, oh, that's cool, that's kind of fun. You don't approach another person on the street anymore. I think there's a lot of fear in people. I could take this podcast on forever and ever and probably never get anything done. They're just my opinions, my views. I don't mean to offend anybody. I'm sure I have. But then again, I don't have anybody listening anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But we need to do something to respect each other. By that, specifically about this podcast, it's okay if we pay people a little more money so that they can be indoors and support their family. And they don't have to be out on the streets. And it's okay if billionaires make money, but maybe it's okay that you don't make so much money that you're disrespecting your employees and not giving them the training that they need. Everybody is worth something. Everybody has value. Everybody has a purpose and a meaning. Everybody has a heart. And maybe instead of looking at how can I take advantage in every way that I possibly can, financially and emotionally, so that I discount that other person. How can I stop behaving in such a negative way that that I'm a gift to other people, as opposed to a greedy, narcissistic billionaire type mentality? I don't know. Whatever. God bless everybody. Take care of one another, and I'll look forward to talking to you all again real soon. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.